Answering a very important question today, Bad Boy or Toro? So we're going to look at a Toro Timecutter 54-inch MyRide and a Bad Boy MZ Magnum, also 54-inch. And I'm comparing these two because I think they're in a very similar class. Depending on where you go, you can get these from dealerships, you can get these places like Tractor Supply, all sorts of different spots, and it just really depends on the promotion, the deals that are going out. But generally speaking, you can get into either one of these mowers in that $4,500 to $5,000 range. And really, I believe potentially this might be just a hair, maybe like $100 or $200 more. But I tried to get it as equal as I possibly could, because as I look at the engines on these and the transmissions, both of those are nearly identical. So I think it's a very fair apples to apples comparison. This is not a blanket statement of Bad Boy is better than Toro or Toro is better than Bad Boy, because we're really just looking at this specific machine. We're looking at the 54-inch residential models. So let's go ahead and dive in, and we'll just bounce back and forth from one to the other. So we're gonna slowly work from front to back on both of these machines. First of all, if we just look at the framing from one to the other, I do think the Toro framing is just a little bit heavier duty from one to the other. You can see this is a little bit thicker piece of steel. These casters are actually removable if something gets damaged on the Toro side. Bad Boy has this tubular framing that's fairly consistent from front to back. It's a little bit smaller than a Toro frame, but generally speaking, that's a pretty strong frame as well. And then as we keep working back, the tire sizes, I think tire sizes are really pretty similar. It looks to me like the Toro is a hair bit wider. And then as we go back to the deck, both of these have, I believe, the same gauge deck. I might give a slight nod to Bad Boy, just because this is a little bit thicker reinforcement from one to the other. But me being a Toro dealer, knowing what I know, the quality of cut behind a Toro, the baffling they put in here, I really don't think you can beat the quality of cut of a Toro. So maybe a little bit thicker up there. Both of them are hanging the deck with a fairly similar setup. This Bad Boy might be a hair bit thicker in just how it holds the deck on. It's just a little bit different system, as you see on there. Both of them have plastic pieces to cover the spindles. Slight nod to Bad Boy, they have a rubber chute right here. That's a little better grade to me. You're not gonna worry about this breaking, or being too brittle. If you look at the Toro, that is a thing that can happen. These can break, they're sticking out a fair bit. And then as you keep going back, this is where I think the Toro is gonna separate itself. And you can get things in the non-MyRide version, but to me it would come at a significantly less price than if you're looking at a Bad Boy. If you just get into a 54-inch, you're gonna get into that for a lesser price without the MyRide suspension. Besides the MyRide suspension, so first of all, if you don't know what this MyRide suspension is, this is freely suspended from the rest of the machine. So you have a shock system here, and you have a shock system under the seat. It's like riding on a cloud almost, and there is an adjustability to this on the right-hand side where you can make it almost recliner-like, or you can stiffen it up depending on where you put that adjustment. Like I said, even if you didn't have this premium suspension, just compare the seats. You've got a nice high back plush seat from Toro with armrests versus this seat over here by Bad Boy. So I definitely think Toro takes the cake as far as the quality of ride and the comfort on the machine. You are losing, by having this, some of the access to the deck. Even if you did not get the MyRide suspension, still on the Timecutter models, you can't flip up and access the deck. Well, not to Bad Boy, they do have a little bit better accessibility that you can just flip up. That is a nice feature as far as accessibility goes. The parking brake systems are a little bit different. Toro has an electric parking brake. Kind of simplistic, but I like. You just put the arm bars out and it stops the machine. There's a sound right here. That's the electric parking brake that is actuating on there. And Bad Boy has just a lever that you go up and down with. That's a little more standard, I think, in the industry. As we keep going back on the machine, I do like the system that Bad Boy has as far as raising and lowering the deck. Both of these have a foot pedal assist just to kind of press it up and down. Toro's is here, we kind of fit it between the notches. Both go by 1/2-inch increments. Another nod I'd say Bad Boy, I do like that it is standard put an hour meter. That is one thing if you look at almost all the time cutter models, it's not standard that Toro puts an hour meter in. Not a very expensive upgrade, so I'd recommend you potentially do that. But Toro has the feeling that if you're using this residentially, it's not as important to track your hours. If they put that on there, the cost of the machine would go up, and they'd rather give that to you as an option, so that's why Toro does that. But I do wish that would be a standard as we go through. So as we continue, keep coming back on the machine here, look at the tire sizes on the back. Toro, definitely a bigger tire on here, there's no doubt about it. The thing that puts these in the same class is the transmissions and the engine. So I'm looking at a Bad Boy here that we've run through our shop. We're actually selling used. I think this is a few years old. I've looked at what the new models look like, and they look very similar to this. I don't think there's been a big body style change for Bad Boy. Because it's being used, the sticker happens to be off on this. I do believe this is a 24 horse. If not, then it's a 25 horse. And if you look over to the Toro side, it's a 24 horse. Both of them are sporting the Kohler. And I do believe that it's the exact same style engine. If you just look from one to the other, this air filter, it must be a little bit shorter. If you compare this is probably just a hair better air filtration system from Bad Boy. But besides that, those are identical engines. The transmissions on these are both 2200cc pumps. It's standard as you get into a lot of machines to be a 2100cc pump, and they start to go up. So both these just have a little bit bigger transmission, but not a whole lot bigger than the baseline transmissions. And so if you're a homeowner and you've got somewhere between 2 and 5 acres, this is probably the machine that could fit your needs depending on which way you go. Looking at how do you see what the level of gas is in both of these machines, they just do it a little bit different way. I don't think one's necessarily better than the other. Toro has a sight line here so you can see what the fuel level's at just based off the shadow. And this actually has a gauge here that tells you. But other than that, accessibility, I think if we flip these seats up, I think both do a pretty nice job at putting everything out in the open and making it very accessible here. You got a battery, you have access to a solenoid, which is a common thing that can go wrong on these, back to the engine, which is fairly open. And even with this MyRide suspension seat, I think Toro does a nice job at still giving you that accessibility, even though you got more going on in there. You're the same kind of setup. Obviously, you're a little bit harder to get to some things just because you have this advanced MyRide suspension. If we looked at one that didn't have this, the accessibility to me would be really similar. Both seem like good products. Toro's been doing this for a really long time. Bad Boy has been doing it for a fair bit of time, but they're definitely newer to the game than Toro, no doubt about it. I'm a Toro dealer. I may be biased here, but to me, I see a clear winner with Toro for this particular mower as I look at the suspension system, as I look at the quality of cut you're getting, and to me, the suspension really helps the comfort. Like I said, just besides that suspension, the seat that you're getting. So if I'm putting these two exact mowers to a battle, I believe that Toro is going to take the cake on this one. So maybe there's other specific models and you want to see us compare Maverick to a Toro Titan, and that would be a different comparison video. But I think in this series, I think Toro's the winner. So thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys listening, and I hope that added some value if you're looking at this level mower. And as always here at Howe Equipment, tool or toy, we have it.